Hey everyone, we've had some new items this patch that have let us play and build things a lot differently, so we're going to take a look at Career today and see what they've been abusing so far. Just a reminder, by the way, there is a big Season 9 giveaway going on right now to win a suite of SteelSeries gear, so a headset, a keyboard and a mouse, a gaming chair, Mobility Collector's Edition, and some RP as well, so check it out in the description. Someone always puts timestamps in the comments, so I'm sure you can find them there, but today the first one we're going to look at is Sylas. We're actually stopping off in the top lane with Sylas. He seems to have finally found a home as a top lane sort of kind of bruiser like we had with Tank Echo. The base damage on his ability are pretty good, but here we're playing around kiting, kind of disrupting, and healing for a ton, just never dying. So runes, we're going to go Grasp of the Undying or Aftershock to trade in the lane phase, get a bit more health as well. Shield Bash, which works with his E, Bone Plating, and Revitalize to give him even better healing. Secondary, you can go into Sorcery, Mana Flow, and also Transcendence, but actually Domination seems to be pretty good. Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter, healing him even more throughout the fight. Now, a lot have also started to max their W into their E instead of their Q, and then finally getting the Q upgrade at the end of the game, which is winning more at the moment as well. So looking at the build, your Iceborne gives us 20% cooldown reduction, which is really good. A Sheen as well that we can proc all of the time, and some armor, and then a Visage afterwards, which boosts up our healing even more. Your damage will obviously be lower in this build, but you'll survive, you'll duck in and out of fights, and bring a good amount of crown control. And actually your Q goes down to like a 3-second cooldown. I think what people are trying to do now is go for the pure burst with like Ludens and stuff, right? Whereas if you stack cooldown reduction and you go tankier, you'll end up firing out spells more often to make up for them not hitting as hard. The real reason that I think this playstyle is one that works the best is because Silas has a 15-second cooldown before cooldown reduction on his ultimate rank 3 at level 16. Now you can't use the same ultimate twice that has an internal cooldown, but you can steal others. So you can steal a Sejuani ult to engage, for example, then 9 seconds later steal the Lulu's ult to keep yourself alive. That is really the key part. That is where having cooldown reduction and surviving with that huge heal is going to keep you alive long enough to use more than one ultimate in a team fight late game. A second pick that is so much better on this patch is Vayne, who is already really good. She's become kind of the best ADC in the entire game now after the crit rework. As long as you can survive anyway past the lane phase and get to 2-3 items, if you can't, then it's going to be Lucian. But you do have a massive chance to win after lane. It's not actually building crit though, even though we have the crit item rework. There are two builds that most people are running at the moment. First up is Blade King into Rage Blade like normal, and then Phantom Dancer, also kind of normal. This is your Silver Bolts proccing every 2 autos from Rage Blade, plus your more attack speed from Phantom Dancer, but now the shield to keep you alive. So this is basically what Vayne built last patch that was already really good, but now you survive easier, and it seems like a straight up buff. The other side is a Blade Rush into Phantom Dancer, and then either Rage Blade or just Infinity Edge and crit afterwards. This is a really good duelist build. It's a lot faster, it's a lot cheaper, you're very hard to kill, but you still have a ton of attack speed to be able to kill everybody else. It seems like she's a bit too good right now. She already had damage to control the game before this, but now she can build more damage and not be as easy to focus and to kill. By the way, your runes are back to Fleet Fork now as well. We don't need Halo Blades for the early damage, so we can just basically scale with Fleet. Yasuo was kind of the question mark for this patch. How would the new items affect him, right? Some thought he would kind of be ruined, but actually the opposite happened. When I looked at this, his win rate spiked up, but his play rate went down. And I thought that kind of makes no sense at all, right? But the reason is because he is now the most banned champion in the entire game after 9.3. He's now amazing. He is one of the strongest mid and top laners in the game, even when rushing a Phantom Dancer. Phantom Dancer is less damage now. It's bad early with the shield scaling, but he still has a positive win rate when rushing it, which makes next to no sense. Shiv is a more damage heavy option, and Shiv and Infinity Edge is absolutely insane to burst. I felt that already a few times in my games, and you die really quickly. At the moment though, it seems like PD has sort of replaced the need for Sterix as well. You can do it, but you're also double dipping into the Lifeline passive, which I think a lot of people haven't realized yet. Phantom Dancer shield is called a Lifeline passive. That is the same passive as Sterix and more of Malmortius. You cannot stack those 3 items. Only one of the passives will proc. Getting a Bloodthirster third with Infinity Edge and PD or Shiv first is the way to go at the moment. A huge amount of AD to feed those crits and lifesteal to keep you alive. So that is what I would recommend. The main thing that all of this has really done this patch to Yasuo is create this mid-game monster. At just 1 item, but especially 2 items, he can just take over the game, which is something he couldn't really do before. He needed more time. Now he doesn't. This might be really weird because Aurelia top was apparently nerfed in this patch, but actually she is now way stronger than before, which is kind of typical. So a W now no longer reduces magic damage, right? And a passive was reworked. But if that passive was a good thing, then the rest of them were straight buffs. Her Q damage to minions was buffed. Her health per level and armor were increased. So those are both good things. Let's look at the passive in a bit more detail. So the maximum stacks is now 5 instead of 4, but at max stacks you have 10% more attack speed. You also have more damage, a bit less base, but actually 10%, almost 10% more bonus AD. When you look at that, it is a bit more clear why she is now actually stronger in the game. Sure, at the very start of combat, you'll be doing less damage without the stacks, but once you have that buff at 5 stacks, you're using almost 10% more of your AD and 10% more attack speed, and that is why she now shreds people. Basically, they moved her damage away from burst to her auto attacks, but she's actually now stronger than she used to be, and her win rate has increased by quite a lot. It's actually up to the highest that has been in Season 9 so far, which, thinking as well she has a really high skill cap, I reckon she's way better than even this is going to show. For our jungler, we're going to have a look at Cain. He had some buffs in 9.2 to make transforming easier and to put you in control a little bit more, but he didn't get much better until this patch. If you took out all of the blue Cain games, I think that he would actually be top tier on the stat size, honestly. As weird as that sounds, red by far seems to be the better one in the game at the moment, at least in Korea anyway, going warrior, cleaver, visage, GA or Stereo, stuff like that. That is winning a ton more. One of the reasons I wanted to mention this one though this time in this video is because he wins a lot against Halo Blades in Zao. He is one of the most popular junglers at the moment, I think, and an insane champion in general, but as soon as Cain transforms into red, he completely flips the matchup back onto him. I do also think he kind of got an indirect buff with the AD carries being a little bit stronger earlier into the game now. Having a red Cain as a frontliner can massively help them do their job better, which will win you more games overall anyway. The other interesting thing that we see a little bit over here, but not really, is they've started to run Conquer on him. It's a bit of a weird build, but he does last forever in fights, so once you transformed into red, doing 20% true damage, getting more AD, that makes a lot of sense. You can still go your Electrocute or even Dark Harvest for more damage earlier if you wanted to do that. It's perfectly fine. It's just something I noticed becoming a lot more popular. We have our other AD for this patch now, which is going to be Sivir, but probably not what you're expecting. Essence Reaver is back. That's amazing, right? Perfect item for Sivir. Well, kind of, but it's not actually as good as a first item as you probably think it's going to be. Right now in Korea, Essence Reaver Rush is perfectly fine, and you can do it, but Infinity Edge Rush is actually winning a lot more games if you're planning to carry yourself. The best part about the new Essence Reaver is that it can actually slot into a build anywhere, into 3rd place, for example. So Infinity Edge, Zeal item, Essence Reaver is actually what is winning the most normally. The other side of this as well are these Zeal items. Phantom Dancer is actually an insane item on Sivir. It makes her ultra safe and is a better version than before, I think. Sivir is already really far away in fights. She's not always attacking the target that she wants to hit, right? She bounces her W over to them through the fight. So Rapid Fire or Shiv isn't really helping because you're not directly hitting that person. All you really need from the Zeal item is the attack speed and the crit, which is why PD is great. Same crit, same attack speed as Rapid Fire, just a big shield instead. With that setup, you have your spell shield, you have a shield from PD, speed from your ultimate, and a range with the bounces. It's very hard to ever kill a Sivir with that setup. There's also now what makes her one of the best lower elo AD carries as well as higher. She doesn't get screwed by any matchups really. You can bring wave clear, better farming, and just straight up stronger with the new update. You can also go 100% crit if you wanted to, but I really want to focus on the Essence Reaver. The fact that now it has crit on it and you can slot that into your build at some point is just amazing. If you think about it, Sivir doesn't really need a ton of attack speed because it has it on your W anyway when it activates, right? You ideally want more AD to beef up your crits and make them hit harder, which this is perfect for. Jax being in one of these OP videos doesn't really make a ton of sense, but it will do in a second, I promise you. He was nerfed a bit recently, right? And he actually got worse. This patch, though, enter Spear of Sojin, and we're all good. A lot of people pick up Asterix or a Titanic second, but if you grab Spear, it is so much better, and in theory, it's even better than Essence Reaver as well. I'm talking about the Essence Reaver from last patch, right? There's no mana or anything on the Spear now, but you get health, which means you're outputting basically the same damage, you're just tankier. Then when you throw in Asterix after that, maybe a Guardian Angel after that as well, how on earth are you supposed to kill that Jax now with a bunch of health, a shield, a revive, and all of that damage? We kind of all thought this would be overpowered on stuff like Riven and Renekton, and it is pretty good on them, but the real winner seems to be Jax. The runes haven't really changed that much. Last Stand, where you get more damage at lower health, seems to be really good on him, and Koreans have started to take that though. There isn't really much else to add to this one, to be honest. It's just Jax, but try it out. You're tankier, you still do stupid damage. It's a pretty good deal. Let's look at our support for the video, and this is really hard to find at the moment because the meta in Korea is so heavily dominated by Thresh. There really isn't much room for anybody else, and I'm really not joking, he is the highest win rate and the most played. One thing that has kind of risen up and is also beating Thresh though is Blitzcrank at the moment, but it's also more of a risky pick when it comes to it. He wins a ton in the first 30 minutes of games, but after that he's going to drop a little bit. His hooks can't really do as much, and he doesn't really have any utility to fall back on. Right now though, in the meta on 9.3, we have a lot more enchanter supports with Sensor and stuff like that, like a Lulu or a Soraka, and in mobile crit AD carries. Your lane phase is an absolute dream to play. Weirdly enough, I think that the Ignite nerf a few patches ago ago was actually a buff for Blitz. It's weaker, but it has a 30-second lower cooldown. For Blitzcrank, he already has enough damage really when he hooks somebody, so what he's looking for is a bit of extra damage, but also the healing cut. So what this means with the new version of Ignite is that in theory, he can net kills a bit easier with it every 3 minutes instead of every 4, so having it up more is actually better for him. I think it also feeds into the fact that AD carries are stronger at 1 and 2 items right now, so they'll do more damage, which is great for him, but also getting them a few early kills gives them that bigger power earlier, and I think that makes bigger difference. So that is going to wrap up some picks from 9.3 over in Korea. Thank you for watching until the very end. I'm a little bit ill right now, so my voice probably won't sound as crisp. I also want to try something though, so if you don't mind, you don't have to, but if you don't mind, I'd love it if you could like this video. I'm just trying to see if it actually helps boost it within YouTube and reach some new people or not. Either way, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will leave you with the robots.